Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze Swedish international Alexander Isak to determine whether he could significantly bolster Arsenal's attack. So in today's video, first we'll focus on Isak's role up front, and then we'll provide an in-depth analysis on his strengths and weaknesses to determine whether he'd be a good fit at Arsenal. So when we break it all down and we do look at the board and we focus on systems, Real Sociedad could play in a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 with Isak up front. If you switch over to how he plays for his national team, they often play in a 4-4-2 with Isak partnered with another striker. Without the ball, for the most part, Isak stays in a system that drops off into two banks of four, with the two strikers sitting in between the deepest lying opposing midfielder. And from here, we'll see how Isak operates in that central role. With the ball, you often see him occupying two center backs, and that could be key for Arsenal or any side that's looking to prime away from Real Sociedad. But there are different facets to his game. For the most part, he does drop off deeper in towards that midfield zone, and that's due to the fact that Real Sociedad often have another attacking player that can occupy the opposing side center backs. But what we see from him is that he drops off into space and center backs don't follow him into that zone. When they do, he is capable of linking play with his teammates. But for the most part, he's capable of dropping in between the lines in search of the ball, or he's capable of dropping into the middle third or his own third to link play. In many ways, you could classify Isak as a roamer, as his ability to adopt various areas across the pitch helps his side in an attacking sense. When he drops between the lines, he's capable of getting his teammates into legitimate goal scoring positions. In the build up to the penalty that Sweden won against Slovakia, focus on Isak dropping off the center backs and his strike partner calling for the ball in behind. When that pass is played, Isak receives it ahead of the center backs that don't stick tight towards him, and from this position you're expecting him to shift the ball out wide, but he ends up flicking it over the center backs in towards the path of his strike partner, who makes a run off his marker, and that's where you end up seeing Isak creating a 1v1 situation with the Slovakian goalkeeper not anticipating it, and that ultimately results in the penalty. When he drops into the middle third, he links play with his teammates to help them push into the final third. If we look to an example here, you could see Isak checking into the ball towards the halfway circle, and once again pressure isn't applied tightly towards him. That allows the striker to receive the ball in that zone, and because he's anticipating that pressure, what he does well here is that he's able to hold it off by using a bit of skill to backheel the ball away from the emerging tackle. That allows him to now turn and take that player out of the game. And as you can see, there are players around him that can step in to make a last-ditch recovery tackle. And as he looks to gain control of the ball, he allows them back into the game, but he also has the initial passer making a run forward. And rather than passing it towards him, he holds it off again as the players are too afraid to step forward to make a tackle. And he finds another passing lane in between two of the opposing players and slides the ball out into the left channel for Forsberg. If you look to another example, it's Lindelof carrying the ball towards the halfway line, and focus on Isak dropping off the center back to receive the ball in a pocket of space between the lines. Lindelof splits two players to find Isak, and from this position you're expecting him not to win the ball, as you could see that the opposing midfielder is stepping in to make a challenge. But Isak does a very good job of stepping into the ball before him, and now you can see the 2v1 being created as the marker that's dragged out of position leaves his man free. Isak's now able to play the ball across the player that was stepping in towards the ball to play his teammate into an advanced position to carry the ball forward between the lines. When that pass is played, you could see that Isak has taken two players out of the game, and from there he continues his movement forward as the play develops. And then when he drops off into his own third or own half to get on the ball, that helps his side break in transition. Here you could see Sweden looking to play out of their own half and break in transition, and you could see that a pass is being played across Sergio Busquets for Isak. That results in immediate pressure from the Spanish midfield on Isak, and what he does well here is that he holds off that pressure and locates a runner breaking in towards the halfway circle, and rather than trying to beat the players that are around him, he simply slides the ball across a marker in towards the path of his teammate, and that helps Sweden break out of the Spanish half. Here we witness Isak from his own half locating Kulusevski checking in towards the ball at the halfway line, And what he ends up doing is that he plays the pass in towards his teammate and then focus on his movement. Isak instantly looks to sprint beyond the halfway line, and none of the opposing side's players are picking him up. And what Kulusevski does well here is that he locates that run and he holds off his marker and splits two of the opposing side's defenders, two playing Isak free into the opposing side's half. As that play develops, now you can see that Isak is in a 1v1 with the goalkeeper, and from here he should be getting a clean shot on goal. But focus on the recovering defender. Isak ends up taking a poor touch in towards the penalty area, and that results in the recovering defender having an opportunity to get a slide tackle in, and because Isak's touch is poor, he allows the defender to get a running start on him, and that results in a last-ditch tackle to halt the attack. And while in many of those situations you could see that the opposing defender doesn't get tight on him, he's capable of dragging markers out of position and then using his strength to brush them off and break forward or place his teammate making a run forward into the opposing side's half. Here we witness Real Sociedad looking to break in transition and Isak dropping into his own half to pull away a marker. What he does well here is that he holds off that marker with his body strength, and that forces another defender to shift towards him. From here you could see that it is a 2v1 being created around Isak, but he's already beaten his initial marker. But when that additional pressure comes across, he's able to use his body to shield the ball away from him, and he's already got a foot on the initial pressure, so he carries the ball forward, and that's where he's pulled down for a foul in the halfway circle. If we look to another example, it's Isak dropping towards the halfway line, and you can see that there's no pressure being applied from the center backs, and that forces the right back to shift across to apply pressure. What ends up happening is that he looks to shift towards the center of the pitch, but then because the pressure is being applied towards him, he anticipates it and then he looks to shift and carry the ball towards the outside. As that play develops, a tackle is made, but Isak uses his body and his close control along with his technical ability to take that touch across his marker, and as you can see, takes out that player, and now he's free to make a run down that left channel to advance the Real Sociedad counterattack. As that play develops, you could see that Isak is now in the final third and he locates the run of Oyarzabal running in between the two center backs, and although recovery pressure is being applied, he attempts to slide the ball across the center backs, but you can see that the pass is slightly heavy, and that simply halts a great Real Sociedad counter. Given Isak's stature, you can also look to bypass the press or the midfield bank by playing long balls over the top in towards him, and from there he could look to drop off the center backs to link play with his teammates, or we've seen on occasions where he's able to back into his defender and use his frame to hold them off and link play, whether it be with his head, his chest, or his feet. In this example, you could witness the Real Sociedad right back carrying the ball towards the halfway line with no pressure applied and Isak occupying two of their defenders. Rather than playing through the midfield, he clips the ball over that midfield bank into the path of Isak, who drops off the two defenders and is free to do what he likes with the ball. His first touch is a bit heavy, so that attracts two midfielders towards him, but because he had enough time and space because there was no pressure applied from behind, he could simply slide the ball out to Januzaj to help Real Sociedad continue their attack. In the build-up to Sweden's opener against Poland, you witness Isak receiving a long ball ahead of his center back marker and the pressure isn't tight, and that allows him to locate Forsberg's unmarked run through that midfield zone. That chest off now pulls away the center back that was initially on Isak, but he's not able to get tight on Forsberg, who receives it goal side. And now his first touch falls into the path of Isak, who pulls away another Polish center back, but the issue that Poland encounter here is that no one's tracking the movement of Forsberg. Isak anticipates the movement of Forsberg towards the edge of the box, but he's simply taken out and the ball falls into the path of Forsberg, continuing his run towards the edge of the box. And from there, Isak's simple involvement through his aerial threat and his hold-up play places Forsberg in a legitimate goal-scoring position to put Sweden ahead. Likewise, due to the fact that Isak does look to drop off the opposing side center backs to get on the ball, that places him in positions where he can serve as a creator. In many senses, when he has a lot of space, whether it be in terms of dribbling or looking to play passes in towards his teammates in legitimate goal-scoring positions, that's where he's able to have the greatest impact. But in terms of dribbling specifically, when he's closed down in tight areas, he struggles to make an impact unless he's already running at the defender. The same applies to his offensive output in the final third. A lot of Isak's sides are dropping off into two banks of four and rarely dominate possession on a consistent basis, so a lot of his attacking moves consist from transition. Again, when he has ample space, he often does make the right decision precision, but there have been times where he is making runs in behind or leading attacks in transition, and he often makes the wrong decision when he reaches the final third or the opposing side's penalty area. In this example, you witness Svanberg winning possession in and around that midfield zone, and from there this should present an attack in transition for Sweden. When Isak receives the ball, you could see that it can now be a 3v2 against the center backs, only if Svanberg does join the attack, so you'd have Svanberg to his right and Zlatan Ibrahimovic to his left. Isak ends up carrying that ball in towards the final third, and he has two options on the outside of the center backs that are converging, and he simply has to slide it across the center backs or look to split them to play those teammates in. Here he hesitates, and then he plays a tame effort towards his left for Zlatan, and the pass is squared and flat, and that ultimately halts a legitimate goal scoring opportunity transitional attack. In this example, you can see Kulusevski shifting laterally and dropping into the midfield zone to check into the ball, and Isak looking to make a run in between the center backs to break in behind. Kulusevski ends up guiding a first-time ball in between the center backs for Isak, and from this position, if his first touch is good, he should be set free on goal in a 1v1 with the goalkeeper. However, he takes his touch across the center back and breaks towards right half space, and even from here he could fire a first-time effort with his right foot on goal. However, he doesn't, and as he carries that ball in towards right half space, he hesitates and takes an additional touch which allows the center backs to regain their position swiftly, and as he continues to drag the ball towards right half space, he gets held up by the two center backs and allows another Spanish defender to shift across for cover, and that ultimately halts the Swedish attack. Isak's movement in and around the penalty area is straightforward. As stated previously, he does look to sit near the center backs, but he often doesn't make runs in towards the channel on a consistent basis. There are several examples where you see him making runs that the center backs are able to read. In this example, we have Januzaj carrying the ball down the left channel with pressure just in behind him, and Isak should be making a run across the center back who isn't anticipating his movement. However, he doesn't do that, and Januzaj carries the ball a few yards forward, waiting for the center forward to make that run so he could slide the ball across the center back. And as you can see, the center back isn't anticipating Isak's movement, but because the striker doesn't attempt to make a run, when Januzaj plays that pass trying to wrap it around him, he's able to comfortably clear the danger. Against Real Madrid, you could witness Diego Rico receiving the ball and pulling away a marker, and from there you'd expect Isak to make a run across the right-sided defender to break free down the left channel. However, rather than making that simple run into the left channel to receive the ball across Militao, he decides to make a run between Militao and Carvajal, which makes it a much more difficult passing angle for Diego Rico. And when that pass is played, you could see that Militao is goal side, and it allows Carvajal to come across to sweep up danger when Isak simply should have received the ball free in the left channel to drag away the center back. Rather than instantly sprinting into that zone once the fullback is pulled out of position, it often takes an ample amount of space for Isak to look to make runs into that zone, but when he does, he's capable of causing a threat. Therefore, the same thing applies in the penalty area. Isak often relies on service from his teammates to have an impact in that zone, and what we see is that he makes basic runs that a defender would expect. We could look to two separate examples where he makes the same run in towards the 6-yard box. In one situation, his teammate's able to find him, and the other, his teammate is looking to disguise the pass, and Isak doesn't read that, and he makes the same run in towards the 6-yard area, and that breaks up a legitimate goal scoring opportunity. And then lastly, if you look at Isak from a defensive standpoint, he helps lead the press in that 4-4-2, and he's capable of being disciplined when they drop off into two banks of four. And at times, his pressure can force defenders into mistakes. But what's most impressive about Isak is that his anticipation to latch on to passes that are played backwards to the opposing side's defenders, and his ability to sniff out loose balls that are played in the middle third or the opposing side's third. Against PSV, you could see Real Sociedad shape forcing the left back to play a pass towards a center back, but focus on Isak anticipating that pass. When the back pass is played, Isak shifts towards the halfway line and he puts a foot in to intercept the pass, and that now places him in a 1v1 against the center back. What the center back does well here is that he shifts centrally to force Isak towards his right, because if he carries the ball towards his left, it'd be counterproductive and it would allow the center back that's at the halfway line to come back for cover. Ultimately, that results in Isak running towards the center back and dragging him at the edge of his box. And from here, what the center back does well here is that he holds the center of the pitch and he forces Isak towards his right. Still, you're expecting Isak to shake off the defender from that position. However, the center back sticks tight towards him, and even in that 1v1 with ample space to run into, he's forced in towards a difficult shooting angle and ends up having his shot blocked. So as you can see, although Isak remains highly regarded amongst the masses as a potential star, his current skill set offers optimism opposed to the immediate impact Arsenal requires to solidify a top 4 spot in the near future.